So whatever I have written on this board now, you can see that in the left side of this particular board I have drawn a schematic diagram of centrifugal pump, labeled different points. Coming on to that part afterwards. First see this part of this board where I have written some introductory information regarding a centrifugal pump. First point I have written hydraulic machine which convert the mechanical energy into hydraulic energy called pump. Now first tell me what is hydraulic machine. Hydraulic machine is a kind of machine which handles any kind of hydraulic fluid. It may be water, mostly water they use, but instead of water you can use any other fluid also. Okay, so if a machine which is converting mechanical energy into hydraulic energy. Now what is this hydraulic energy? Here we are implementing that hydraulic energy is nothing but the pressure energy we are talking about. So basically the machine which converting the mechanical energy into pressure energy, that machine is called as pump. Mechanical energy means rotation of any member. Suppose a linear motion or rotational motion of any shaft can be known as mechanical energy. So what we do actually, if we want to use a pump, then you have to supply some mechanical energy into it. It cannot run just like the IC engine. Basically pump is a work consuming device. If you want to run a pump, you have to connect one prime mover to it. It may be IC engine, it may be a motor. You can couple a IC engine with pump. Most of the cases in industry, if you use a large size pump, there we use a kind of diesel engine with it. You have seen in the for the purpose of irrigation purpose, I think you people have seen, irrigation purpose we use some pumps there, and those pumps actually run with the help of a diesel engine. So there IC engine work like a prime mover. IC engine rotate or supply the mechanical energy to the pump. And in our home what we do, we also use a pump there, that is also a centrifugal pump. There we do not use any IC engine, we use generally a motor. So electrical motor also is a kind of prime mover. If you supply some electrical energy to it, that motor will develop a mechanical energy. Now that mechanical energy is going to supply to that pump. So pump is a device which will consume some work. It's a work consuming device. And what it does actually, it is obviously energy conversion will be there. We all know that energy cannot be created or nor be destroyed. It only can be converted from one form to another. So pump is a device which converting the mechanical energy into hydraulic energy. And if anybody asks you what is this hydraulic energy, then you must reply him that hydraulic energy, here we are talking about the pressure energy. Basically by using this pump we are raising some pressure of the working fluid. If the working fluid is water, then with the help of this pump we will raise the pressure of that water at the outlet of the pump. So obviously the inlet of the pump will be the liquid with atmospheric pressure or less than atmospheric pressure, and obviously it should be less than atmospheric pressure. Then when it is going to the delivery part of the pump, then it will be a higher pressure. That is the objective of using pump. In our home we do the same thing. What we do in our home, basically we use this kind of pump to raise the water from the ground level to the overhead tank. It may be first floor or second floor above. We all know that water cannot go against the gravity. If we want to push the water against the gravity, that kind of pump is needed. It can be a centrifugal, it can be a reciprocating. Today's topic is regarding centrifugal pump. Now second point I have written, if make energy means if mechanical energy is converted into pressure energy by centrifugal force acting on the fluid, then the hydraulic machine is known as centrifugal pump. Obviously the name suggests us that some centrifugal action must be there, and it is there. Inside of this device, this part is actually pump. In this drawing, this is the housing of the pump I have drawn, not the integral part. I am just shown you people the casing of the pump. It is inside of this casing a impeller will be there. That impeller is nothing but the rotor part. That rotor will be rotating with the help of that electrical motor, or it may be IC engine. Now if that rotor is rotating with a high RPM, then a centrifugal force obviously will be generated, and that centrifugal force will be imparted on the fluid which is entering in the pump. If it is water, then that pressure will be created on the water. If you use any other fluid or other liquid, obviously liquid should be used, then that liquid, it may be water or any other liquid, it will gain some pressure energy. Why this pressure energy will be developed? Because inside of this pump a centrifugal force will be generated, and that centrifugal force basically imparts a pressure on the working fluid, because it is a confined chamber. So if you apply some force on any working fluid, obviously the pressure will be getting raised, and this pressure is raised with the help of this centrifugal force. That is the reason why we say it is centrifugal pump. If it is a reciprocating pump, then it will be the working principle will be the reciprocating motion of piston inside a cylinder. Here it is not a piston cylinder arrangement. Inside of this casing a rotor will be there. When that rotor will rotate with a high speed, then a centrifugal force will be generated, and that centrifugal force basically raise the pressure of that working fluid. In this third point I have written, it is just reverse of inward radial flow reaction turbine. It is very important. Already we have studied what is radial inward flow reaction turbine, and there we have also gone through the reaction turbine which is known as Francis turbine. Francis turbine is basically a inward radial flow reaction turbine, and the centrifugal pump is just reverse of that. That question frequently asked, that centrifugal pump and Francis turbine, what is this difference of working principle between them? You should reply that both of them are just doing the reverse to each other, opposite to each other. That means in case of inward radial flow reaction turbine like Francis turbine, what I am saying, in that Francis turbine we have seen the working fluid, that is the water, it is coming in radially towards the center. And in case of centrifugal pump, the working fluid, it will go out radially. That is why I have written reverse of inward radial flow reaction turbine. Radial flow will be there, but it is inward, and this one is outward. Obviously if it is reversed, then it should be outward. Okay, so working fluid will be going outward radially from center to the outer periphery. This is the reason why we say it is reverse of inward reaction flow reaction turbine, and that is nothing but Francis turbine. So centrifugal pump is just opposite of Francis turbine.
Clockwise to the anti-clockwise.
Now clockwise, anti-clockwise I am not saying. Rotation depending on that, I am not saying that which direction impeller is rotating. I am saying the direction of working fluid. Working fluid will enter from the center and it will go outward. যদি জলটা ভাবি, জল enters in the pump in the axial direction and it will go outward, radially outward direction. And in case of turbine, water enters from outside and coming in towards in. Direction of the working fluid I am talking about. Rotation you can change according to your wish, that is not a factor. রোটেশন এদিকে হতে পারে, এদিকে হতে পারে, সেটার সঙ্গে এর কোনো সম্পর্ক নেই। আমি বলছি দ্য ডাইরেকশন অফ দ্য ওয়ার্কিং ফ্লুইড, this is the radially outward, and in case of Francis turbine it was radially inward. Just based on that concept, the velocity diagram will be a very similarity will be there in case of these two. What velocity diagram we have seen in case of Francis turbine, that outlet velocity diagram will be in case of this inlet velocity diagram, কারণ ওখানে আউটলেটে ছিল রেডিয়াল ফ্লো, এখানে ইনলেটে হবে রেডিয়াল ফ্লো, so it will be a kind of reverse image but some difference will be there. Okay, I will coming up to that afterwards.
হাইড্রোলিক এনার্জি একটা তো ইনওয়ার্ড রেডিয়াল,
একটু জোরে বলো।
প্রথমে একটা তো ফোর্স দিতে হতো,
হ্যাঁ, that point, that is a complete different, that is this differentiating point based on the direction of the flow, and what you are saying, that is work consuming or work producing, that is obviously a differentiating parameter, but that is based on some different aspect. Obviously pump is a work consuming device and turbine is a work producing device. That is a foremost differentiating parameter between any pump and turbine, not only Francis and centrifugal pump. All the pumps, what we know, all the pumps they are basically work consuming, and all the turbines, what we know, they all are work producing. So that is a general differentiating point between these two. Okay, now this point I have written, it works on the principle of forced vortex flow. So what is that forced vortex flow? Vortex flow, I think you people have seen commonly. Suppose a kind of vortex flow you can see in your kitchen sink. Suppose a kitchen sink is filled of water, now the drain is suddenly opened. When the water all they are going out from the drainage, you can see a kind of vortex will be formed at the point of that particular drainage point. So here also that sink actually occurring that free vortex, that vortex is formed there, but there is no externally torque is applied. You haven't applied any torque from to occur that vortex. That is why we say that is a free vortex flow which occurs in case of a sink flow. So that a part, that is a very important part for advanced fluid mechanics. Here in case of centrifugal pump, here also a vortex will be formed inside this casing, but it is a forced vortex. Why it is forced vortex? Because you are applying some angular torque onto it by rotating that impeller inside this casing. Okay, so while that impeller or the rotor is rotating with a high speed, then obviously it will provide an angular torque on that particular working fluid which is rotating inside, and that casing of that pump is such a manner, it's a kind of involute casing. That means cross sectional area gradually it is decreasing inside this pump. It's a kind of involute casing we say. So while the inside area is gradually decreasing, then obviously the pressure will be getting more raised, and it is applying some external torque onto that particular working fluid. That is why we say it is forced vortex flow. And the last point I have written, at the outlet of the impeller where radius is more, the rise of pressure head will be more and liquid will be discharged at the outlet with a high pressure head. That is very true, because the casing is constructed such a manner that from inside to outside, basically that is the delivery part, the cross section is gradually decreasing. So as a result of that, pressure head gradually increase from inlet to outlet when the working fluid is moving. Due to that reason, that pressure head is highly increased when the fluid is going out from this delivery side comparing with the inlet side. these are the basic introductory information regarding a centrifugal pump. If we know these things, then we can move forward. Okay, I am recording the session, so if you want, you can take a screenshot. I will move ahead. Now, after having this all information, yes. If you consider a impeller, it's a kind of this thing, this kind of bleeding will be there. So the water is entering from this center part. So obviously it will going outside. So radius will be getting increased now gradually from this with respect to the center. That is why I have written over here. Gradually, when the fluid is moving from center, that is center of the pump is known as eye actually. From eye to the outward, while it is moving, the radius obviously gradually increasing. Now we are going to enter in the inside part of the centrifugal pump. This drawing is a very important one. That is why I have drawn earlier. Now see the different part. Obviously this one is the upper reservoir where you are going to deliver the working fluid. Consider water, okay, and this is the bottommost reservoir from where you are taking the fluid, liquid, okay, that is commonly said as sump. You can say also lower reservoir, but commonly it is known as sump. And this line is representing the datum, that is the reference surface from where we have measured the elevations. You can consider the sump is at datum, it doesn't matter, but I have placed the sump somewhat elevated from the datum surface. Now see these Z values. Z's are basically the elevation. Okay, first see the different parts. Now from inside this sump, one strainer I have written. The strainer always will be there. It is connected to the centrifugal pump suction pipe. This is the suction pipe. The whole pipe is suction pipe. Okay, these parts are basically the joints. You can see a right angle bend is there, so obviously some pipe fittings will be needed to get this kind of right angle bend. So these blue colored things are representing, they are basically joints. That same kind of thing I have placed over here also, because delivery pipe is connected with the pump, so here also one joint will be there. Every joint, every fitting considering some losses, okay, mind it. Now that strainer will be there just to giving it some protection by which some foreign particles do not go inside. Now some points I have represented over here, they are very important points. Like inlet of the suction pipe, I have named it like point B, and the sump level water named it by A, capital A. Then the fluid is going inside with a velocity of V1. Then the C point is representing the inlet of the pump. The water will be inlet going to enter in the pump from its center. So that is representing at the center part of the pump. Here I have connected a pressure gauge. Pressure gauge means a device which will measure the pressure. Actually it is measuring the gauge pressure. Gauge pressure means the pressure above the atmosphere, mind it. That is why it is known as gauge pressure. I have written P1 by rho g. P1 by rho g means P1 stands for inlet, 1 stands for inlet, and if we divide it by rho g, that means the pressure head. I think you people are very well aware of this term. Already I have used this term in Bernoulli's theorem. So they will this pressure gauge will give you the pressure at suction side. Okay. Now see these elevations from datum up to this suction side inlet. That means up to the point of pressure gauge is connected. That elevation I have mentioned by Z1. And from the water level, or you can say the liquid level at the sump, from there this pressure gauge elevation is given Z. So Z and Z1 both are giving us elevation. That means how much elevated they are. Then it is this pump. That pump actually having some impeller inside it. Some guide vane also can be there. So that pump will raise the pressure, and obviously if we want to raise the pressure, we know the velocity must be dropped just to maintain the Bernoulli's theorem total energy will be remain conserved, then velocity will be getting dropped in expense of pressure increase. So pressure, high pressure fluid will be going out. The D point is representing is the delivery of the pump. Here also one pressure gauge is connected. There the pressure it is showing P2 by rho g, that means 2 stands for delivery side and rho is the density of fluid, you know. So it is giving you the pressure head at this delivery side. Then the fluid is going out with the velocity of V2, that is the velocity of the outlet of the pump, and V1 is the velocity of the inlet of the pump. We all know that velocity will be dropped and pressure will be increased. Here at the inlet of the reservoir where you are going to supply the liquid, I have named it at point E, and the point F is representing the point on the top surface of the reservoir. Now see this H means H representing the total energy, or you can say total head. Okay, H here in this H representing the head actually. Okay, we all know that how head can be gettable, that we from Bernoulli's theorem I have shown you people that velocity head, pressure head, they are nothing but, if we consider pressure head, what does this mean? Pressure head means pressure with respect to unit weight of the fluid. Okay, velocity head, that means kinetic energy with respect to unit weight of the fluid. Same thing here, head, HA representing a head. Which head? From the datum surface up to the top level of the sump water, that is represented by HA. I am using different nomenclature, I will be using them as such. Okay, and H is actually known as static head. H is actually known as static head, and static head it is representing, see the distance between the top surface of the reservoir, upper reservoir, and the top surface of the sump. This height actually it is not elevation, mind it is the head. If there are some energies, obviously I will show you later that if you want to get this H's, lots of energies are there, pressure energy, velocity energy, and elevation energy. All these energies will give you the H, because we all know head how you can get. Obviously pressure energy will be there, then velocity energy will be there, and elevation, or rather say potential energy will be there. So if you add them all, then you will get in terms of head, pressure energy with respect to unit weight, all this energy should be converted in terms of unit weight of the working fluid, just like the Bernoulli's theorem. Okay, now tell me, is there any problem regarding this picture? Then tell me, otherwise I am moving ahead. Now I am basically, what we are going to do now, we are going to show you, we are going to see over here that how the Euler's equation of hydraulic machine, already I have told you people that what is that Euler's equation, that also we have used, going to use over here. Okay, now after having all these things, first of all, mind it, from the beginning I am saying all this pipeline, they will be having frictional head losses. Similarly, while the liquid is entering in the suction pipe and it is going out of the delivery pipe, there also will be some losses. One is entrance loss, one is exit loss. Okay, this entrance loss, exit loss, loss for this friction of this pipeline, all are going to be accounted for this particular case. First find out total head. Step by step we will move forward. If you have any confusion, any point, then please tell me that point. Okay, total head at inlet to pump, sorry, inlet of pump, I should write inlet of pump. Total head at inlet of pump. Inlet means the point B. Okay, so I can represent P1 by rho g, that is the pressure at the inlet, plus v1 square by 2g, that is the velocity head, or rather say kinetic head you can say also. Then coming out that elevation z1. Total head inlet of the pump means which point? At point C, because that is the inlet of this pump. Okay, at point C. C and this pressure gauge, you can consider them like a same point. Okay, so that is why this pressure gauge reading, mind it, it is a gauge pressure. It is a gauge pressure, not a absolute pressure, mind it, gauge pressure. Okay, then velocity of the pump inlet, and Z1 is the elevation available at the inlet point of the pump. This is the inlet point at point C, and I can refer it, this total head can be referred by H1.
So explain the gauge pressure.
Gauge pressure means gauge will show you the reading. Obviously these are very childhood information. They should be stored from class 9-10 standard. Absolute pressure basically known as atmospheric pressure plus gauge pressure. And one pressure is there also, I think you people know, that is vacuum pressure. So vacuum pressure is referred as a negative pressure, and gauge pressure is referred as a positive pressure. Okay, so above the atmospheric pressure, how much it is, that is known as gauge pressure. So here a pressure gauge will be mounted actually. Have you seen pressure gauge? Actually there was no practical classes since last 2 years, so what should I do? Pressure gauge is a kind of device, a kind of dial device is there. One pointer will be there. Okay, so it will measure the pressure of the working fluid which is flowing through the pipeline. It is actually known as Bourdon pressure gauge. After opening,
The reading of the gauge is known as the gauge pressure.
yes, if it is above the atmospheric pressure, then it is known as gauge pressure. It can be less than atmospheric also, then it should be known as a vacuum pressure, mind it.
Okay.
Okay, so vacuum gauge pressure means what? The pressure is lesser than the atmospheric pressure. Okay, basically in this inlet point, if we connect a pressure gauge, it will show you a reading less than the atmospheric pressure actually. Otherwise, sorry, higher than the atmospheric pressure also, because we all know the atmospheric pressure will be acting over here on this sump part. Here atmospheric pressure is working on this sump level, isn't it? Here PATM is working. So if the pump hasn't been created any pressure gradient, obviously it should be a lesser pressure than the atmospheric pressure, otherwise that liquid cannot go inside. We need to have a pressure gradient, isn't it? Just like the injection syringe we use. Why that fluid or liquid can go inside of an injection syringe? Because you are pulling a plunger inside, by which a negative pressure will be created, so the liquid can go in, otherwise it cannot go inside. Similarly, here also you have to create a negative pressure in this suction pipe, by which the liquid will go inside of the suction pipeline, otherwise it cannot go in. So basically the gauge pressure over here, it will be lesser than the atmospheric pressure. So basically you know that the reading what you are getting from the gauge, you can say it is a gauge pressure, but it can be, gauge pressure can be positive as well as negative. If it is a negative one, then we say vacuum gauge pressure. Okay, so if you want to get the absolute pressure, then always you have to add gauge pressure with atmospheric pressure, and if it is a vacuum pressure, then you have to subtract vacuum pressure from the atmospheric pressure, then we will get the absolute pressure. Understood? If it is vacuum, then you have to subtract them from the atmospheric pressure. If it is a more than atmospheric pressure, then you have to add them both. Here basically the P2 pressure will be the higher than the atmospheric pressure, it will be a more than atmospheric pressure, but here the pressure will be less than the atmospheric pressure. Okay, so total head at inlet of the pump I am representing by this expression. This is nothing but the Bernoulli's equation. I think you people can recall that, and that is representing I am by H1. Okay, similarly I can write the same thing, total head at outlet of pump. outlet of the pump I can write like this in the same manner, P2 by rho g, that is the pressure gauge reading at the outlet side, then velocity V2 square by 2g, velocity at the delivery pipe, plus Z2, that is H2. I am representing the total heat by H2. It is a symbol, nothing else. Now if we eliminate H2 minus H1, if we do this thing, that means total heat available at the outlet of the pump subtracting from total heat at inlet of the pump. So if we write this expression, so it will be P2 by rho g plus V2 square by 2g plus Z2 minus the whole part P1 by rho g plus V1 square by 2g plus Z1. Okay, so what is this? This H2 minus H1, what does this gives us? What is the physical meaning of it? That is a mathematical expression, but what does this mean? That means it is nothing but this amount of heat you can develop by the pump. So I can say heat developed by the pump, because that is one is inlet, head available at inlet and head available at outlet. So if you subtract them, what you are getting from there? Head developed or head generated by the pump itself. And this is known as manometric head. Why it is said as manometric head, I will coming on to that. First know this head is known as manometric head. Okay, now I can say one thing, this V2 square by 2g minus V1 square by 2g, this difference is not so significant. What I am trying to clear one thing, that some terms can be neglected if they are not putting any high impact on the expression. Why? Just to make it simple. We can eliminate some terms if they are not putting high impact on your expression. That is a very common practice we do frequently. Okay, on your higher study you also can see that kind of thing if you go on to that. Here we have seen practically that this velocity head difference between inside and the outside, it is not so significant. It is not so remarkable, I can say, remarkable. Where the differences will be there, you cannot say they are same, never. But the difference is not so significant, not so bold, not so remarkable. So if it is not so remarkable, we can eliminate them. If you see, this difference is very negligible in amount. Similarly, this elevation difference, that is Z2 minus Z1, that is also not so big. If we consider so that this elevation Z2 means this one and Z1 is this one, difference between them, that means I can consider this is the Z2 minus Z1. Okay, if we get a very big values for both of these, then we have to consider them. But if you see by observation reading that these two values are not so having any very huge impact onto that expression, then what we do, we can ignore them actually. By ignoring them, you can make a simplified expression for manometric head. What will be that? Obviously it will be a simplified version. So I can write, if we ignore these terms, then you can say manometric head will be, it is actually expressed by HM. Okay, in your textbook, if you follow any textbook, you can see this notation HM, and they say that is manometric head. But very rare number of books are there, they explain that what is that manometric head clearly. Okay, that is a very confusing thing. You can study, you can go through in many books. Okay, I will come come with that particular topic, why it is known as manometric head. Okay, so H2 minus H1, so I can write it is only a difference of pressure head, P2 by rho g minus P1 by rho g. Why I can write this one? If we ignore these two terms, this one and this one, otherwise this whole expression, mind it, this one is also known as manometric head. If we ignore these two terms, then you can consider the manometric head just difference of two pressure head values, mind it. Now if we only ignore this part, that means the difference between the velocity head, but if we consider this elevation head difference, then obviously that expression also can be written, that means the manometric head also can be written by P2 by rho g plus Z2 minus P1 by rho g plus Z1. When I can write this expression, if we ignore this difference of velocity head, but I haven't ignored this difference of elevation head, then you can consider this expression also. Why I am saying these three kind of expression? Check. One I have written, this one is a manometric head, HM. Again writing this one, again writing this one. Just depending on the data given to you, we have to select any one of them. Understood? Actually, if we use this expression, it is known as difference of piezometric head. Okay, what is piezometric head? Piezometric head is nothing but the summation of pressure head plus elevation head. They will come in advanced fluid mechanics. If we select that subject, then you can see what is piezometric head. This sum of pressure energy and sum of pressure head and elevation head, that is known as piezometric head. Piezometric head. So manometric head also can be defined like a difference between two piezometric head. Piezometric head at outlet, and that means the delivery of pump, and the piezometric head available at the suction side of the pump. But all these three expressions what I have written, they will be used to find out which part? The manometric head. Manometric head is nothing but the head developed by the pump. Now, why we say this is manometric head? The reason is that the difference between this manometric, one second, Aditya class hour आगे attendance दिए पढ़ी है. That's good. So why we say this is manometric head difference? Because manometer, do you know what is manometer? First tell me. Anyone of you know what is manometer? Have you heard this term ever before, manometer? Manometer was there, I think, in class 12, isn't it? 11 or 12, I think it was there. Manometer is basically a, most of the time it is made by a U-shaped glass tube. It is not so that it is always made by a U-shaped glass tube, but most frequently we use a U-shaped glass tube. And this device, it can be a single tube also, but here I am using the common one. This device is connected to different point of the pipeline. So if we connect this kind of U-tube body, one end, suppose this is the left one is connected here, that means where this pressure gauge is connected, and the right one, left limb is connected at this pressure gauge level. So obviously some manometric fluid will be there. Most of the time manometric fluid considered like mercury, okay, because mercury is a very good manometric fluid or thermometric fluid, you can say. Lots of properties are there for mercury. I am not going to discuss all of them. So if you connect this device at this P1 pressure gauge and P2 pressure gauge, then obviously depending on the difference of pressure, this manometric fluid, one side will be depressed and one side will be higher, isn't it? I told you that P2 pressure will be higher. So if you connect here, this is the suppose delivery side. If you connect this delivery side and if it is connected with the suction side, so the pressure of the working fluid which is acting here, it will be less. Basically, based on this particular case, it will be going above, the manometric fluid will go above here, and right side it will go down, isn't it? Tell me, are you getting my point or not? Basically, it's a kind of U-shaped device, and the device is filled with some manometric fluid, suppose mercury. Now both of this end is open to atmosphere. Suppose initially it is open to atmosphere, here also atmospheric pressure is working. Then what will happen? Obviously both side pressure is same, so this manometric fluid will having at the same level, isn't it? Because both the sides same pressure. Now suppose this end is connected with this delivery side of the pump, so I am taking this is delivery side, and this end of the pipe is connected with the suction side. Already I told you suction side will be lesser pressure than the atmospheric pressure, and delivery pressure will be higher than the atmospheric pressure. So this side, obviously the working fluid which is over here, it will depress the fluid. As a result of that, here the fluid will go rise. So obviously there will be a difference of level of liquid. That means the mercury level will be different. Are you getting me or not? Tell me.
Yes, sir.
Why it is happening? Just because of difference of pressure. One pressure which is acting over here, it is higher, so it will depress the liquid downward. So obviously the other side liquid will go up. A difference you will get from here. If you mention that difference by x, then the difference between these two limbs, from there you can get the pressure difference, actually the pressure difference at these 2 points. This is basically a device which measured this kind of, actually it measured the piezometric head difference. Actually manometer measures the difference between the piezometric head difference. We commonly say it is the head pressure difference. Okay, now why I am saying this is manometric head? Because if we connect a manometer at these two suction and delivery point, then we will get these values directly. What I am trying to say, again repeating, if you connect this manometer over here, the head difference, what head difference you are getting, that will give you this total value. একেবারেই পেয়ে যাবে, because this manometer actually gives us the difference of piezometric head. But the problem is that you can say that then why you have connected a pressure gauge? You can connect the manometer. The problem is that one thing is that these tubes are made by glass, otherwise you cannot read the reading. So that is very tough to handle, they are very fragile. Second thing is that this manometer will be a very huge length will be there, because in between this Z2 minus Z1, if this value is higher, you have to connect a bigger size of manometer. It will makes you much more problematic. হ্যান্ডেল করা খুব প্রবলেম, কারণ কাঁচের তৈরি করতে হবে, ভেঙে যাওয়া খুব প্রবলেম, কানেক্ট করা খুব প্রবলেম, দে উইল কনজিউম সাম স্পেস, much difficulty from practical aspects are there. That is why the reason why we connect this pressure gauges, not the manometer. But the manometer will give you the data directly. That is why, that is the background behind it, why we say this head difference is known as manometric head. Okay, manometric head is nothing but the net head developed by the pump, and the net head developed by the pump is nothing but the total head difference between this point D and point C. If we do not ignore velocity head difference or elevation head difference, then the total energies will be there, pressure, kinetic, potential. If we ignore any of them, then you can get this expression also or this expression also. Now tell me, is there any confusion regarding manometric head or not?
Sir, I have a question.
Sure, sure.
বলছিলাম সাকশন জায়গাটা V1 আর V2 যেটা আছে
হ্যাঁ।
ওগুলো সেম হয়ে যাচ্ছে।
V1 আর V2 সেম কখনো হবে না।
ইগনোর করছি।
একটু জোরে বলো। একদমই সেম হওয়ার জন্য ইগনোর করিনি বাবু শোনা। আই নেভার সেড, অলরেডি আই টোল্ড before that V2 and V1 cannot be same, never. I told you if we get the value of this difference, it is negligible, not zero. I haven't said ever zero, because the velocity will never be same. I can ignore only if the difference is negligible. Otherwise you should consider. Why I am saying this? Because from the numerical point of view, most of the times if they do not mention the velocity at inlet and velocity at outlet, if they do not mention, then you have to consider to find out the manometric head, we have to ignore the velocity head term. Are you getting me or not? If it is mentioned you that the velocity at inlet and velocity at outlet they are given to you, then always you have to consider.
যে পয়েন্ট মাইনাস v1 টা নেগলেক্টেড করতে পারছি না, সেই পয়েন্টটা তো মাইনাস v1 টা নেগলেক্টেড হবে না স্যার, কারণ v1 টা সব জিনিসটা নেগেটিভ।
আর তোমার কথাগুলো কেটে কেটে যাচ্ছে। দেখো আমি কখনো তোমাকে ইনফ্লুয়েন্স করছি না যে তোমাকে ইগনোর করতে হবে। Just I have represented three modes of manometric head, three expressions of manometric head. You can see the manometric head expression in this form, as well as the initial form whatever I have written earlier. Hm also can be written by the sum of all those. I haven't told you ever that you have to neglect them. But what I told for the simplification purpose, some parameters most of the times they are ignored if they are not putting any heavy impact on the expression. Otherwise this will be the accurate or actual expression for the manometric head. Understood? But mind it better that manometric head, if you connect a manometer in between this point C and point D, then the value what you are getting from there, that is nothing but the difference in piezometric head. If you consider this expression, then the head difference from the manometer, it will give you this sum of these two values. The velocity head is not included here, then we have to add the velocity head, because the manometric head, the manometer will give you the difference in these two terms. Most of the cases practically we consider that manometric head in a simplified form, this is the expression, because this difference between two velocity head, that is not so remarkable. Practically it has been seen. Okay, now the concept of manometric head, I think it is clear. That is very confusing. I know that manometric head is not very clear to any of the very good commonly available books. Now coming to again applying Bernoulli's theorem, at point, suppose at point first A means this sump at the pressure point available at the sump. So obviously I told you several times we consider the gauge pressure. So here the atmospheric pressure is acting. Okay, so if we consider the atmospheric pressure as a zero pressure, why I consider zero pressure? Because I am doing all this thing with respect to gauge pressure. Okay, so if there is atmospheric pressure is acting, then gauge pressure is nothing but the zero, isn't it? Because gauge pressure is either more than the atmospheric pressure or it may be less than the atmospheric pressure. But here at point A, it is only the atmospheric pressure is acting. Then we can consider the pressure acting, or rather say the gauge pressure acting at point A, that is zero. Then if I write the Bernoulli's equation, the pressure head will be zero. Obviously it is a static fluid, so velocity head also will be zero. because the velocity is a kind of static, is a very negligible, or you can consider like 0, and the head which is available, that is I have written HA, that is the head from datum surface. This is the potential head is available, that is HA I have represented here. So I can write this is the Bernoulli's equation at point A, and this expression, this is pressure, this is velocity, and that is elevation. So if you sum of them, make a sum of them, then you can say it is total energy. Obviously total energy where? Yes, at A. Tell me.
Please highlight the point A. It's not visible.
Which point? Here?
Point A.
Acha, point A. First make it, some light should be needed. Point A is here at the surface of the point which is at the sump water. If we consider the liquid as a water, then consider any point which is, this is the point A, which is at the top surface of the sump water. Can you see this point, Aditri?
Yes, sir.
This is the top surface of the sump water, if we consider the liquid as water. Here the pressure acting, it is a open, top open, that means it is open to atmosphere, so the atmospheric pressure is acting. So that is the expression for total energy at point A. Similarly, if we apply the Bernoulli's equation at point C, that is the inlet of the pump, here also I can apply the Bernoulli's equation. Then I have already written that expression earlier, P1 by rho g, V1 square by twice g, plus the elevation I have mentioned it by Z1. That is also a total energy. This is also total energy, already I have written. You all know that total energy will be remain conserved. Then if I equal them both, that means the total energy at point A and total energy at point C, if we make them equal, because the total energy always will be remain conserved, we know, then I can write like this: 0 plus 0 plus HA, that is the energy at point A, will be equal with this part. But not only with this part, some terms will be added with it. What are those terms? Wait, this is the pressure head, velocity head, potential head, which are available at point C, but some few terms will be added. First one is, wait, H in, and second HF. I'm coming, wait. H in, that term, I will name that term, that is loss due to entrance, in pipe. And HF, that is frictional head loss, in that suction pipe. Tell me, what you are asking, tell me.
Point A से the point C तक केवल
बोलो.
Bernoulli's equation का point A से the point C equal consider.
Total energy always will be remain conserved. That is said already, we know from Bernoulli's theorem. So the total energy at point A and total energy at point C will be remain conserved. Now will be remain same. That I have.
Total energy और outlet total energy equal.
শোনা যাচ্ছে না তোমার কথা?
Inlet total energy और outlet total energy equal.
হ্যাঁ করব, সেগুলো করব. You can consider for this particular system any 2 point energy will be remain conserved. If we consider this total system like a single system, then for any 2 point you can apply Bernoulli's theorem. I will also, according to your point, I will also apply the Bernoulli's theorem. Just try to approach or try to proceed with me, it will be clear. So if we equalize the total energy at point A and at point C, then I will get this expression. Now see, I have added two terms, H in and HF. What is this H in? H in is a loss due to entrance in pipe. While the water is entering in the pipe, there will be loss. Similarly, while the liquid will go out of the pipe, then also one loss will be there. They are known as entrance loss, exit loss. Why it is occurring? They are basically minor losses. At the time of minor losses, I have gone through these things. These minor losses occurs because of change in velocity. Because you know this liquid which is entering in the pipe, it will gain some velocity. So while the change in velocity is there, obviously some acceleration will be there. We all know from our basic concept, if there is any change in velocity, then acceleration must be there. And we also know that force is nothing related with mass into acceleration. So if acceleration is there, obviously mass is always there. Mass never be zero. Then acceleration is there, then must be some forces is there. So due to this kind of forces, some energy losses or energy gain can be there. Here actually occurring due to entrance, some kind of loss will be there. Similarly, due to exit also, a velocity change is there, because the liquid at the reservoir, it is zero velocity and it is with high velocity. Always there will be velocity change. Due to velocity change, acceleration will be there. Due to acceleration, some force will be there. Now due to force, some work done will be there. Due to that, some kind of losses will be encountered in this exit of the pipe and this entrance of the pipe, and this losses is encountered by this kind of expression, k v square by twice g. This k is basically a constant. It generally considered like 0.85 to 0.9. Okay, these expression, they are basically minor losses. If you have forgotten those things, go through the Darcy-Weisbach equation chapter. From there you can get these minor losses. Okay, so this H in representing the head loss due to entrance of the pipeline, that I have written here. And HF you have known already, I think you can recall your memory. HF is nothing but the frictional head loss, which you can get from applying that Darcy-Weisbach equation, and it is a major loss, mind it. Okay, so this is the suction pipeline, due to which lots of frictional losses will be there, and due to the entrance, some losses will be there. So if you add these two terms with this energy at C, then you can equalize with energy at A, mind it, because these two terms is not there. This is the only elevation at point A, and if you want to equalize that HA with the energy at point C, then these three terms will not do the purpose, will not solve the purpose. You have to add these losses also, then you can equalize. Otherwise, they should not be equalized with each other. Okay, so name this equation by equation 1. Then similarly, I will do the same thing. That means I will again apply the Bernoulli's equation between two different points, between D and F. D means the delivery of the pump, and F means the point at the surface of the tank or overhead tank or upper reservoir, whatever you can say. Okay, similar fashion, similar concept, similar thing. Then applying Bernoulli's theorem, first at point D and point F. একই সাথে লিখে দিচ্ছি, again we are going to equalize them just like the same fashion. At point D, what will be the total energy? Already I have written earlier, P2 by rho g plus V2 square by twice g, plus at point 2 the delivery elevation available, that is Z2. That is the expression total energy available at delivery of pump, point T. If we want to equalize with point F, then again here which pressure is acting? Open to atmosphere, so atmospheric pressure is acting. So I can make them 0 because I am considering only the gauge pressure. Then obviously the pressure head will be 0 because it is acting with atmospheric pressure. Here P ATM is working there. Then if we consider the velocity head, velocity also will be 0 because it is a static fluid. Now you can say one thing, common sense tells us that suppose the velocity of fluid coming out of the pump, it is V2 velocity. Now you say that the velocity at this tank, it is 0 velocity, then where that velocity goes? Velocity obviously possesses some kinetic energy, and we know that energy cannot be destroyed. Then where this energy goes? Actually that energy, that kinetic energy, converted into intermolecular energy, so that molecules will absorb the energy. Okay, I am not going to enter on those details. So velocity head also will be remain 0. Why it is 0? Because the fluid we consider is a big reservoir, so the velocity getting static immediately after entering in this big reservoir. Then coming with the elevation head. Elevation head, you can see from here to here, that is the total elevation. I am saying this elevation I am representing by HA, and from here to here, that is HS. So the total elevation I am getting HA plus HS. Obviously some losses will be encountered, otherwise you cannot equalize them. One loss will be at the exit of the pipe, I can name it by HE, and one loss will be there, that is the head loss due to friction, I name it by HF2. This one HF1. This one HF1, that means for inlet pipe. This is HF2, that is the head loss due to friction for the delivery pipe, and this is the exit loss, we say exit loss from the pipe. You can name this equation by equation number 2. Here also you can cancel this 0 part. Now what we do a substitution. That means what? This HA expression, you copy them and put it over there. Just copy this expression of HA and put it over there on this equation 2. Then what we will get? Substituting that HA value over onto equation 2. From there, if you arrange this, it will give you some kind of this P2 by rho g. After putting that values, doing some shuffling, so I can express this expression like this way: V2 square by 2g plus Z2, keeping inside bracket, minus P1 by rho g plus V1 square by twice g plus Z1, and keeping all the losses in this, losses as well as the elevations on the right side. Like HS will be there. HS is nothing but static head. Then head loss due to entrance, H in. Then HF1 will be there, HF2 will be there, and head loss at the exit of the pipe, HE will be there. Just what I have done, putting this whole expression over here, then shuffling the equation, then it will be giving you this kind of expression. These two difference, again you can see, already I have written one time earlier: total energy available at the delivery of the pipe, total energy available at the inlet of the pump and outlet of the pump. If you make them difference, then what you are getting, that is nothing but the manometric head. Also we say it is net head. So net head or manometric head also you can find out like this way: static head plus head loss due to inlet of the pipe or entrance of the pipe plus head loss for the exit of the pipe plus HF1 plus HF2. That way also you can find the net head. Now if we make a sum of all this, keeping the static head outside, then it will give you a simple expression like this. That is the final expression what we are getting from here. That is the net head, that H is nothing but static head Hs plus sum of all those losses. This is nothing but sum of all losses. So if any problem gives you a value of static head, and suppose they have mentioned summing of all losses, you are getting this amount, then from there also you can get the value of total head developed by the pump. I can write the expression like this: total head developed by the pump, it is nothing but static head plus sum of all losses. That is a very important expression what we can derive from here. আরেকবার বলো। আমি পয়েন্ট ডি আর পয়েন্ট ই তো কখনো মেনশনই করিনি, অ্যাপ্লাই করিনি। একই হবে এটা বলা যাবে কখন, যদি তুমি লসকে ইগনোর করো, আদারওয়াইজ কখনো এক হবে না। কারণ পয়েন্ট ডি তে দ্য ফ্রিকশনাল হেড লস and point E te the frictional head loss not will be same, because you are traveling a long pipe when you are going from point D to point E. If we neglect them, then you can consider, but still it will not be remain same, because point E will be somewhat more elevated from point D, isn't it? Your total energy available at point D, it will be remain same obviously with point E, but if you want to make them equal like writing a equation, then you have to consider these terms, you have to take them account, because the energy available at point D, it will be more comparing with point E, because some energy is getting dispensed or expensed while it is traveling. Every point of time when a fluid is traveling a long pipe, energy gradually getting dropped, so the pressure energy available at point D obviously not will equal with point E. So that is what bolo. So now after here this point, now we are going to see that how that velocity diagram will be constructed in case of a centrifugal pump. Okay, first of all, what are the different part of centrifugal pump? I think you people can see those things from any kind of textbook. Okay, they are very easy. That one rotor part will be there. Rotor means this is also known as impeller. One guide vane can be there or it cannot be there. Guide vane may be or may not be there. Okay, then one volute casing will be there. These are the basic part of the centrifugal pump. Then you can see the diagram or sketch of how the guide vanes are fixed. Obviously guide vane will be fixed with the casing, and the rotor will be rotating. See those pictures and parts from any textbook. I am not going to enter all those things because they will consume some time. Already we don't have that. Now coming on to that particular velocity diagram. Okay, suppose consider this one. This one is the smaller radius and this one is the bigger radius. Which radius I am talking about? This is the eye or center of the pump rotor. So that is the impeller radius I am talking about. Okay, so that is the impeller cross section I am taking. Now suppose one blade I should draw over here, a kind of geometry of blade such like this. Okay, this is a kind of cross section of a impeller blade. Only one blade I am drawing just to show you how the velocity diagram will look like. Now the rotation of that particular impeller in this direction, that is the rotation of the impeller in this direction. Okay, that means the U will use that same velocity diagram notation I will use over here. Okay, so whatever velocity diagram I have used in case of Pelton turbine or reaction turbine, Francis, that same notation I will use over here. In case of centrifugal pump, these blades are actually backward curved. Why they are backward curved? Because you can see the rotation is occurring in this direction and the blade is bent in such a way that it is a kind of backward curvature. Okay, I will come on to that part afterward, that what is backward, what is forward curved. Now know that mostly we use backward curved when this is the rotation of the impeller. Now by design such a way, the blade is designed such a way that the water enters radially in the impeller. That means in the axial direction the water will inlet. Just to achieve the best efficiency of the pump, it has been observed that if the liquid enters radially, that means radially means in which direction? How you can plot the radial direction? Suppose if you draw a kind of tangent at the inlet of the blade, then the radial direction is a perpendicular direction such like this. That means the radial direction means the perpendicular with the tangent of the inlet of the blade. This is the tangent, this dotted line representing a tangent at the inlet point of the blade. With this tangent, this is a kind of perpendicular component of velocity. This is known as absolute velocity at inlet, V1. And the direction of the blade obviously in this direction, that is U1. And that the resultant component, it will be resultant component and it is known as VR1. This angle is 90 degree because it is radial inlet. That same kind of diagram you have seen in the outlet part of the Francis turbine. If you recap onto that part, you can see that kind of right angle triangle. You can see the outlet of the Francis turbine. Okay, now here this is the angle which is known as theta and alpha will be there, but here alpha is nothing but 90 degree. Why it is 90 degree? Because it is a radial inlet. Because it is radial inlet, that is why this alpha angle is 90 degree. Obviously V1 will be two component. One is the wheel component, velocity of wheel, and which is known as tangential velocity, and one was perpendicular component which is known as Vf. Here you can see Vw1 and U1, they are basically same, isn't it? Vw1 and Vu1, they are nothing but the same. And here Vf1 and V1 also same. That same kind of criteria we have considered in case of Francis turbine outlet diagram. So this will be the simple inlet diagram or inlet velocity diagram for the centrifugal pump. Now if we consider the outlet diagram, along with this blade curvature, this will be the radial component, this will be the relative velocity component, and the V1 will be in same direction, kind of this. This kind of diagram you can see in the outlet part. This will be the relative velocity at outlet, because the velocity is relative velocity will just glide with the blade geometry, just glide with the blade geometry. So this will give you the relative velocity, and that is the direction of absolute velocity. Then u direction is this one, so obviously this whole component will be the velocity of blade, that is u2. Direction I am giving in this direction. Now v2 having two component. One will be vertical component, which is known as velocity of flow vf2, and one will be the horizontal component, that is this one, which is known as vw2. See, v2, we all know that v2, if it is moving in this direction, so one component will be this direction, which is known as vf, it is v2, then it will be vf2, and one component will be there which is known as wheel component, that will be vw2. And relative velocity making with the u, it will be phi, just theta opposite of a phi, and here v1 making the angle with u, that is alpha, then it will be beta. That same nomenclature I have used in case of Pelton turbine as well as in case of Francis turbine. Alpha is nothing but the angle made by absolute velocity at inlet with the direction of motion of the impeller. If you want, then I can write all these things, and if you tell me that you can understand, then I will skip them. What are those nomenclature? I have to write it out or not? Tell me. Already I have made this kind of velocity diagram. I have taken 3 classes on turbo machinery already. So if you go through them, I think it will be clear that which velocity is which one and which angle is representing what. The same formula also I can use over here, that u1 is nothing but pi d1 n 60. That same formula, u2, that is pi d2 n by 60. Those formula also you can use, or q equals to pi d b vf. This formula also you can use. You have used this formula in case of Francis turbine. Here also you can use this kind of formula. They are very well known to us. Now this in this inlet diagram, sorry, vw1 is 0 here. Where from it is no velocity, horizontal component is there, v1. How I have write, I don't know. vw1 in case of inlet diagram, there is no vw1 because v1 is a radial component, so it is not having any kind of wheel component. So vw1 is 0 in case of inlet diagram of the velocity diagram. Okay, why it is mentioned? Because the geometry of blade is make such a like a way that by which you can consider the inlet of the fluid having a axial direction, by which you can consider that vw1 is 0, and vf1 and v1 both are actually same. So that way you can construct the velocity diagram. From there you can find that the head imparted by impeller means the rotor, by impeller to the fluid, by on the fluid, what it will be? It is nothing but that Euler's equation. I think you can recall. If you forget, then go back. vw2 u2 minus vw1 u1 divided by g, that is the Euler's equation. In case of fluid machine, mind it, Euler's equation, there are 2 Euler's equation, one is in fluid mechanics and one is in fluid machine, so don't intermix them, they are completely different. Okay, so here that vw1 part is 0 because it is a radial inlet, so this part will be making 0. So here what is the amount of head which is imparted by impeller on the fluid? That means the fluid having a amount of head, this one vw2 u2 by g, and it is applied by the rotor on the fluid, isn't it? This is the equation which is nothing but the Euler's equation, where vw1, that is the velocity of wheel at the inlet, it is 0, then you can exclude this part. So that is the head imparted by the impeller on the fluid. Now from there I can find manometric efficiency, eta mano. Before starting efficiency, here one thing I should clear, just like the turbine what I have done, here also you can done 1 box, 2 box, 3 box. If you make them, it will be more easy. First box I am writing shaft power, second box I am writing impeller power, IP means impeller power, and third box I am writing H mano, that means manometric head, that is the output actually. In case of turbine what I have drawn, if you forgot that thing, then you can recall that thing, that it will be the shaft power, outlet will be the shaft power. Okay, just reversing of that thing. Now if we make this kind of arrangement, you never forget, otherwise these efficiencies are very confusing. If you go between shaft power to impeller power, then it will give you mechanical efficiency. Then if you relate impeller power to manometric head, then you will get eta mano, that means manometric efficiency. And if you go from shaft power to manometric head, then you will get eta overall. That kind of block diagram I have made for the turbine also. I don't know that if people can recall that thing or not, but this kind of arrangement, it is not a part of any book. Okay, I have made this kind of simplified version by which it will be stored in your hard disk very clearly. Now go with the eta mano. Eta mano means manometric efficiency. Manometric efficiency means a relation between these two, manometric head with the impeller power. So I can write that manometric efficiency, already I have written the expression, that is the actual head imparted by the impeller to the fluid. That means this is the actually impeller power. So manometric efficiency, I can write down the expression like this way. Obviously output to input will be there. If any efficiency will be expressed by output to input. So here output is nothing but the manometric head, or I can write HM, and the input I am considering the impeller power. Okay, so already I have explained HM only by H. Just few minutes back I have used only H. So you can use H or HM, whatever it is, mind it, they are same basically. Net head available, net head available, you can write it by H. Many books they have used H, you can use HM also. Whatever you write, the meaning of this one is the net head available. And IP means impeller power. Impeller power means this one, because this is the power which is developed by the impeller and it's supplied to the fluid. So this will be this power. So I can write it VW2 U2 by G. So if you write it like this way, GH by VW to U2. This is the expression which is referred by manometric efficiency. And obviously if we consider the fluid is ideal fluid, suppose if I consider it's the ideal fluid means it has no viscosity, then we can consider the manometric efficiency will be 1. It is not needed for you now. So manometric efficiency is expressed by this expression. Then if I find the overall efficiency, or rather say okay chalo, first find the overall, okay, mechanical first find it. Mechanical efficiency. Mechanical efficiency means relation between this impeller power to shaft power. Impeller power will be the output and shaft power will be the input. What is this shaft power? Shaft power means the power supplied by you, it by some pump or by some electrical motor or by some IC engine, whatever it may be. It may be a turbine also. So the power you have supplied from outside, that is your shaft power. That is the input, and output is the impeller power in case of mechanical efficiency. Understood? Now shaft power basically given in terms of watt or kilowatt or megawatt. Most of the times they are given with some kilowatt unit. Understood? Then this impeller power expression, it is in terms of head. You can see this is the term in terms of head. So obviously this head term will be converted in terms of watt, isn't it? Otherwise you cannot relate, because the shaft power always will be given in terms of kilowatt unit. You will see in the problem. Then we have to convert this particular expression in terms of kilowatt or watt, whatever what it may be. So how it can be converted? Very easy. See, VW to U2, it is, if it is by G, okay, that is the VW to U2 by G, that is the power generated or developed in the impeller. Now you have to divide it by shaft power, then you will get the mechanical efficiency. The problem is that this numerator side, it is in head term, and the denominator term, it is in kilowatt term. Then just to make them a same platform, what we do rho q g is multiplied at the numerator. As a result of that, this g cancelled. So the final expression will be this one. Final expression will be rho q VW to U2 divided by shaft power. Shaft power most of the times they are given in the problem in terms of kilowatt, or it may be watt. If you have any confusion how it is done, then just use the units of them, you can easily get it. Suppose use the unit of density, unit of density in SI, it will be kg per meter cube. Use a unit of discharge, Q is nothing but discharge. Discharge means volumetric flow rate, meter cube per second. And VW2 and U2, they all are in meter per second, so it will give you meter square per second square. Are you getting me or not? What I am trying to show you, I am trying to show you this numerator term, is it giving you in terms of watt or not? How you can check it? Just put the unit of rho, that is kg per meter cube in SI, unit of Q, volumetric flow rate, meter cube per second, and VW to U2, both are in meter per second, they will give you meter square per second square. Understood? Just simplify them, what you are getting. See, this meter cube cancel, so kg meter per second square, it will give you Newton. 1 meter will be left over there, 1 second will be left behind at the bottom. So Newton meter per second, that is nothing but joule per second, so it will give you a unit of watt. Now if you want to get a kilowatt, then 1000 will be divided, otherwise no 1000 will be there. You can convert the kilowatt in watt, or you can do watt to kilowatt, whatever it may be, you can change it. Understood or not?
Yes, sir.
So that is the final expression of mechanical efficiency. Mind it, if in the problem shaft power is given in kilowatt, then otherwise you have to convert the kilowatt into watt, or you can divide this by 1000. This thing should be clear. I can assure you, most of the time students fail on this calculation side. Most of the time, from gate point of view, from any PSU point of view, answer doesn't match after putting the same formula. The problem is this kind of thing occurs. In the problem, if the data is given in kilowatt unit, you have to divide it by 1000. Otherwise, kilowatt should be converted into watt. Understood? I think, let me check once. আদিত্য অভিষেক বাদ দিয়ে শুভদীপ আছো না গেছো? শুভদীপ, are you there or not? দীপ নারায়ণ ঘোষ, তাপস কর্মকার, অরিক মল্লিক, শুভদীপ দত্ত নেই তো? অদিত্রী, ওর অ্যাটেন্ডেন্সটাও বন্ধ করে দিও, ওখান থেকে উড়িয়ে দিও। নিশ্চয়ই দিয়ে দিয়েছো।
Okay, sir.
রিমুভ করছি ওকে তাহলে। ওকে, দেন কামিং টু দ্য মেকানিক্যাল এফিসিয়েন্সি, পরে যেটা বাকি রইলো দ্যাট ইজ ওভারঅল এফিসিয়েন্সি, ইটা overall efficiency relation between this manometric efficiency with the shaft power obviously. So it can make a ratio between extreme output. Always shaft power is given in terms of kilowatt, already I told you. Then you cannot use this manometric head like VW to U2 by G. Then I can write this kind of expression, rho QGH divided by shaft power. Why I am rewriting this expression? The reason is that shaft power will be given in terms of kilowatt. That is why I have converted this manometric head in this fashion. Okay, that is the reason why I am converting these expressions, rho QGH. That way if you multiply them, then you will get that same kind of expression in terms of watt. So finally I can, this expression already I have used in case of Francis turbine also, that eta overall is nothing but eta mano multiplied by eta make. This relation easily can be built. If you just shuffle them, you can easily get this kind of expression can be used. Why I am writing this expression? They are not very conceptual, but they are actually used to solve numericals. What are the conceptual things that I should discuss now? After completion of this velocity diagram, please clear one thing, this velocity diagram, these formulae are very important. They are used to solve numericals, but many conceptual question can be there in case of centrifugal pump. For them you have to know the theory. If you know this formula, if you memorize this formula, anyone can solve any problem coming from centrifugal pump. They are very easy, just like the Francis turbine problem. The first conceptual thing is slip of centrifugal pump. That is a very important topic in case of centrifugal pump. Just see the velocity outlet diagram. Outlet velocity diagram, what I have drawn, I am again making that drawing. This thing is very important. Just I am drawing the outlet diagram. It will only be needed to explain the slip, VR2, V2, then this whole part is U2, and this small part is VW2. If you make a drawing 3 or 4 times, it will be very easy for everyone. This angle is beta and this angle is phi. Okay, now I am doing another thing. এখানটা বড় হিজিবিজি হয়ে গেছে, আমি একটু মুছে দিচ্ছি এগুলো, হ্যাঁ, না হলে ড্রয়িংটা করতে পারবো না। ইয়েস, সো VW2 just make a this kind of drawing, then you will understand what is slip. I am putting VW2 prime, this one VW2 prime. What I have drawn over here, first make me clear that this dotted line is representing the ideal one. Okay, and the farm line representing that farm line is representing আচ্ছা কালার আলাদা করেছি যখন এখানেও ডটেডটাকে ব্লু করা উচিত and the farm line representing the actual one. Okay, now from this diagram what we can see, this one is VF, okay, VF2, and this angle is phi. Okay, now see that what is this slip phenomenon. Slip phenomenon is occur in case of a centrifugal pump. Why? Just because of the special kind of geometry centrifugal pump has. What we can see over here, that dotted line representing the ideal velocity diagram and the farm line representing the actual velocity diagram, from where what we can see that VW2 velocity of wheel, VW2 ideal case যেটা হচ্ছে, ideal case means the dotted one, this is the VW2. Okay, so it is, I can say VW2 কে আমি প্রাইম দিয়ে সিম্বলাইজ করেছি, so VW2 prime is greater than VW2 actual, isn't it? Because the farm velocity diagram you can see this is the VW2, that is the velocity of tangential velocity component, and here you can see the tangential velocity component is increased. So in case of ideal case, the velocity tangential velocity component is greater than the actual component, but u2 is remain constant. That means the u2, both the cases, here the length of u2 and here the u2, they are basically same. u2, if I say it is prime condition and it is actual condition, they are same. That means the velocity of the blade will be remain same, that the tangential velocity component, it will be somewhat decreased. So slip, actually we say that slip is nothing but del VW. That means the change in this tangential velocity component. So change in tangential velocity component means this one is greater, so I can say VW2 prime minus VW2. This is the expression what we say it is slip. This is ideal term and this is actual term. Mathematically this is the slip. Now we have to understand why it is so occurring. Obviously if it is having this kind of thing, that VW2 ideal is VW2 actual, so already I have seen VW2 U2 by G, that is the net head imparted by the impeller to fluid, isn't it? So if VW2 is increased, then head imparted also will be increased, isn't it? If we increase VW2, as a result of that H also will increase. So if we get more VW2, it will be beneficial for us, but actual case দেখতে পাচ্ছি যে ছোট হয়ে যাচ্ছে this VW2, that is the actual drawback due to this slip phenomenon. That is the actually problem which occurring due to this slip phenomenon. But why it is happening so? This is the mathematical thing. Now we have to know that why it is happening. If we want to know that why it is happening, then we have to know the blade geometry of the centrifugal pump. That blade geometry of the centrifugal pump is making such a way that কুকুরটা জ্বালিয়ে মারলো। ব্লেড জিওমেট্রি অফ সেন্ট্রিফিউগাল পাম্প এমনভাবে তারা অ্যারেঞ্জ করা থাকে, কখনো যদি ওয়েবে কিছু ছবি দেখতে পাও ব্লেডের তাহলে বুঝতে পারবে, এমনভাবে ব্লেডগুলো অ্যারেঞ্জ করা থাকে, ব্লেডগুলো শেপ এমনভাবে জিওমেট্রিতে এমনভাবে তৈরি করা হয় যে ব্লেডের লিডিং ফেস আর ট্রেলিং ফেস, লিডিং ফেস আর ট্রেলিং ফেস, লিডিং ফেস আর ট্রেলিং ফেস কথা দুটো খুব ইম্পর্ট্যান্ট এখানে। লিডিং ফেস অফ দ্য ব্লেড and trailing face of the blade. এই দুটো ফ্যাক্টর মানেটা কি? মানে হচ্ছে এখান থেকে যদি লিকুইড ভেতরে ঢোকে, এটা হচ্ছে ব্লেড প্যাসেজগুলো, হ্যাঁ, এখান থেকে যদি লিকুইড ভেতরে ঢোকে তাহলে ব্লেডের জিওমেট্রিটা এমন করে আছে, ব্লেডটা কিন্তু একটা 3D বডি, এখানে একটা 2D লাইন দেখে তুমি ভাববে না যে এটা ব্লেড, এটা একটা 3D, আমার হাতের এই পামটার মতো একটা সারফেস এরকম কার্ভ করা আছে, এইখান থেকে যদি লিকুইড ঢোকে তার মানে এইটা ওর কাছে লিডিং ফেস আর ও দূরেরটা হচ্ছে ট্রেলিং ফেস। একটা ব্লেড মানে একটা 3D বডি, এরকম দুটো পামকে তুমি ভাবতে পারো দুটো ব্লেড, তাহলে লিকুইড যদি এখান থেকে ঢোকে তাহলে এই ফেসটা হচ্ছে ব্লেডের ওর কাছে লিডিং ফেস, দূরে যেটা আছে যে ফেসটা সেটা কিন্তু ট্রেলিং ফেস। আমি বোঝাতে পারছি কিনা জানি না, ইটস আ কাইন্ড অফ 3D body, so it is very difficult to implicate in a 2D manner. So it is a line here representing, it is not such a line, it is a 3D figure. So consider my palm as a blade of a centrifugal palm. So my two palm is like the two blade, they are aligned such a way when the water is entering from here, the leading face means the face which is faced at the leading side. যেমন এরোপ্লেনের যে উইংসগুলো হয়, ধরো একটা এরোপ্লেনের উইংস এরকম আছে, দিস সাইড দ্য এয়ার ইজ ফ্লোয়িং, সো দিস ইজ দ্য লিডিং এজ, দিস ইজ দ্য ট্রেলিং এজ। যেটা সামনে আসে সেটাকে বলে লিডিং এজ, এটা হচ্ছে এজ বলছি, লিডিং এজ। এটাকে বলে ট্রেলিং এজ, যেটা পিছনে আছে। হ্যাঁ, এখানে বলছি লিডিং ফেস আর ট্রেলিং ফেস। তো যে ফেসটা প্রথমে ও লিকুইডটা ফিল টাচ করছে দ্যাট ইজ দ্য লিডিং ফেস, আর তার থেকে দূরের দিকে যে ব্লেডের ফেসটা আছে দ্যাট ইজ দ্য ট্রেলিং ফেস। এবার জিওমেট্রিটা এমনভাবে অ্যারেঞ্জ করা থাকে সেন্ট্রিফিউগাল পাম্পের ব্লেডের জিওমেট্রিটা, যে এই যে বাইরের দিকে আমি প্লাস দিলাম, বাইরের দিক মানে হচ্ছে এটা ট্রেলিং সাইড, আর এই ভিতরের দিকে যে মাইনাস মাইনাস দিয়েছি এটা রিপ্রেজেন্ট করছে লিডিং ফেস। এটা হচ্ছে তলার দিকটা হচ্ছে লিডিং ফেস, আর এটা ওপরে আছে, ওপরের দিকটা হচ্ছে ট্রেলিং ফেস। 2D প্লেনে এর থেকে বেশি আমি বোঝাতে পারবো না, এর থেকে বেশি বুঝতে চাইলে কোনো 3D মডেলিং দেখো, যে জাস্ট জিওমেট্রি অফ সেন্ট্রিফিউগাল পাম্প ইমপ্লাই দেখলে বুঝতে পারবে যে জিওমেট্রিটা কেমন হয়। এমনভাবে তৈরি করা হয় যে এখানে দুটো এই প্লাস আর মাইনাস রিপ্রেজেন্ট করছে দ্য ডিফারেন্স অফ প্রেশার। মানেটা কি আমি এই পাশটা মুছে লিখে দিচ্ছি, শুধু এই কি পয়েন্ট দুটো মনে রাখবে, তবেই তুমি স্লিপ কাউকে এক্সপ্লেন করতে পারবে, কোনো ইন্টারভিউতে যদি জিজ্ঞেস করে তবেই ক্লিয়ার করতে পারবে, যদি এই পয়েন্টটা ভালো করে ক্লিয়ার হয় যে কিভাবে স্লিপটা হয়। পয়েন্টটা হচ্ছে এই, when the liquid passing through the leading face, যে ফেসটা প্রথমে ও ফেস করে লিডিং ফেস, then flow is decelerated. কেন এটা হয়? জিওমেট্রি অফ দ্য ব্লেডের জন্য ফ্লো ইজ ডিসিলারেটেড, অ্যান্ড যখনই ফ্লো ডিসিলারেট করে তখনই প্রেশার ইজ ইনক্রিজড। এটা কখন হবে? যদি এই ফ্লো সেকশনটা জিওমেট্রিটা ফ্লো ডিসিলারেট করছে, মানে এটা ডাইভার্জিং ক্রস সেকশন তৈরি করতে হবে। ডাইভার্জিং ক্রস সেকশন না হলে কিন্তু ফ্লো ডিসিলারেট করতে পারে না, অ্যান্ড ইফ দ্য ফ্লো ডিসিলারেট দেন দ্য প্রেশার উইল ইনক্রিজ। সেই জন্য আমি যেটা বলেছিলাম যে লিডিং ফেজে প্রেশার উইল ইনক্রিজ। আমি যে এইখানে যে প্লাস 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 সাইন দিয়েছি দ্যাট ইজ দ্য লিডিং ফেজ, অ্যান্ড দ্য অপোজিট সাইড একই রকমভাবে এটা লিখে দিই, while fluid flowing through the trailing phase, then flow is accelerated. এই পুরো ফ্লো অ্যাক্সিলারেট হলে কি হবে? প্রেশার ইজ ডিক্রিজড। এই পুরো গল্পটাই কিন্তু হচ্ছে ডিউ টু দ্য জিওমেট্রি অফ দ্য ব্লেডের নিচটা একটু ওয়াইড, ওপরের দিকটা একটু বাঁকানো, জিওমেট্রিটা দেখলেই বুঝতে পারবে। সেজন্য নিচের দিকটা একটা কাইন্ড অফ ডিফিউজারের কাজ করে, ওপর দিকটা নজলের কাজ করে। এটা কার্ভেচারটা এরকমভাবে করা আছে, ডিউ টু দ্য কার্ভেচার অফ দ্য ব্লেড ইট ইজ হ্যাপেনিং। এবার এই যে একদিকে প্রেশার বেশি একদিকে প্রেশার কম, অ্যাজ এ রেজাল্ট অফ দ্যাট প্রবলেমটা কী হয়? প্রবলেম হয় এখানে একটা সার্কুলেশন অফ ফ্লো তৈরি হয়। বিকজ অফ দিস ডিফারেন্স ইন প্রেশার, what happens, one circulation loop occurs around each blade, প্রত্যেকটা ব্লেডের কে অ্যারাউন্ড করে একটা সার্কুলেটরি মোশন তৈরি হয়, and due to this circulatory flow actually it disturbs the radial flow and it disturbs this tangential component of the flow. That is why this VW component is getting reduced in actual manner. Why it is reduced? Due to this kind of circulation is occurring. Why? Where it is occurring? Around each blade. Why it is occurring? Due to this difference of pressure between leading edge and the trailing edge for each blade of the impeller. This is the reason of slip. That is the story behind the slip actually. So if you want to quantify the amount of slip, that will give you the mathematical value of slip. If you want to know the slip parameter is very important. Slip parameter, you can find it in any book. Slip parameter is expressed by sigma s, that can be written by VW2. Here the actual term will be there, what I have written VW2, and it will be VW2 prime. So it is actual and it is ideal. This is a kind of decimal values will be there, because you know that VW2 prime ideal component will be higher, actual will be lesser, so it will be coming with a value of 0.85 to 0.9. This kind of values will be coming generally for slip parameter usually. Okay, now already I have told you that head imparted by the impeller on the fluid, that is VW2 U2 by G by Euler's equation. Now if there is slip, if it is when it is possible, when there is no slip. If we don't consider any slip is occurring, then you can consider this expression. But if we consider that some slip is there, then if I try to find out actual work imparted by the impeller on the fluid, it will be written like omega s will be multiplied with this parameter VW2 U2 by G. Then you will get the actual work if you consider the slip. If no slip is there, then you can consider this expression, no slip. But in actual case there will be some slip, you cannot avoid the slip phenomenon. If we want to avoid the slip phenomenon, then what we have to do? Otherwise, one way you can do that, you have to increase the number of blade. If you increase the number of blade to some extent, you can reduce the slip phenomenon. But if you increase the number of blade, then obviously the frictional losses will be increased, because every blade will encounter some amount of frictional head loss. So this is not possible that just to avoid this slip you are increasing the number of blade. It is not so possible, because you have to consider the frictional loss as well as. So just to make them balance, most of the cases slip mostly it will occur, but it is not so high to damage or to reduce the efficiency or head in that amount. Okay, so that is the whole thing regarding slip.